Basketball is a game of strategies, and over the years I fell in love with the X's and O's scheming aspect of the game. There's beauty in this game. The ball movement, the sets, the defensive strategies, and how teams combat each other. It's a beautiful sport, and there's not one way to win a basketball game. I know people are like, oh, everyone shoots threes nowadays. It's not always threes. There's different styles. It's a lot of different things, and teams do a lot of different strategies, a lot of different plays that contribute to wins at a high level. I have some of those strategies, those types of plays that helps teams out, and I want to highlight them in this video. So let's just get right into it. Shorten the pick and roll. So we know the pick and roll. It's the simplest form of basketball. It's the simplest play in basketball. There's different coverage in defending the pick and roll, and the idea of shortening the pick and roll is good to use when attacking an aggressive pick and roll coverage. Shortening the pick and roll is a three-man action. It's a good counter to aggressive defenses that are blitzing, hedging, or having their big defend high at the level of the screen, and it's good for small guards to use, guys that's like 6'1", 6'2", 6'3". On this possession from the Atlanta Hawks, they use this action with one man at the top of the key, one man on the wing, and one man in the corner. Trae Young is a small guard, and it's tough for small guards to like consistently beam passes over double teams. It's truly a tough skill. So just a simple example of this, Young and Zachary goes into a handoff, a screen and roll after that. Now the Rockets want to switch this. If you switch this, Van Vliet has to do a better job in just going under the screen so that he is in front of the rolling Zachary. But sometimes the angle to pass isn't there just yet, or the roller isn't already going towards the rim to quickly beam a pass to them. So Trae passes it to the nearest man to him to connect and complete the pass, which is the corner man. And that's the simplest idea of this play. It's simply just passing it to the next man so that they can complete the pass, and that corner man has a better angle and they're stationary. It's easier to pass when you're stationary rather than if you're on a live dribble. The Warriors are a team that likes to use this a lot because Stephen Curry, the dude faces double teams or very aggressive coverages like every night. So this all turns with Santos and Curry and Green, who's on the strong side corner. So Curry comes off the Santos screen. Seems like Bridges wanted to stay attached. Hart wanted to switch. So it's not the best defensive execution by the Knicks, but this ends up turning into a Curry double in which he gives the ball up to Draymond to complete the pass. And as I mentioned before, Draymond, as the next man next to Curry, has a better angle to complete this pass, given that he is stationary and can better see if OG on the opposite side is trying to help on the roll. Curry is operating on a live dribble, and it's easier to pass and make reads stationary than on a live dribble. And Curry can hit this pass, but sometimes you gotta take into account the types of defenders you're looking at. Like Bridges has that length, Josh Hart is good with just jumping out at passes. So it's tough with Curry with that live dribble and trying not to lose the ball in that pressure. So it was the easier play to have Draymond just connect this. And also just take note in the openness of the shot. An underrated move on this play was the action that was happening on the opposite corner, having Moses Moody clear the weak side corner into the strong side corner. Granted, Brunson is a smaller low man. This really forces OG to make a decision to help off a shooter and just completely emptying out that weak side. The Knicks execute this as well above the break to where Karl-Anthony Towns is given a ball screen higher up on the floor. The Bucks blitz Brunson, so Brunson gives it up to Hart on the opposite wing. Now Cat has to challenge the low man in Giannis. A tough task, but this action is so tough and quick to where Portis and Dame are still above the three-point line when Cat gathers for the inside shot. He makes this, but there's also another option he can go to in the wide open three for OG. In the same game with the Bucks, when the Knicks look to short the pick and roll here again, they have Bobby Portis step up to disrupt the Karl-Anthony Towns roll. So now instead of seeing Cat, Hart just has to pay attention to the weak side action, seeing OG lurking and Campaign spotting up, in which he finds Payne for an open three. Moving on to Oklahoma City Thunder's 1-4 flat. The Thunder absolutely love running this for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander down the stretch. 1-4 flat is essentially just a formation, an isolation formation. You have 2 offensive players occupying the left and right corners and 2 players occupying the left and right dunker spots. So the key to this whole play is to take away that gap pressure on the perimeter. So there is no players on the wings. So the isolation player has a lot of space to work with. You see a lot of space in this area to work with all around on the perimeter. And one of the things the Thunder likes to do is incorporate screening in this, and it benefits their 5-out stuff too. So on this possession, they operate within that formation. They have Williams screen to get Isaac off of Shai. And again, you see that formation with the players occupying their spots. And this is a ton of space for Shai to work with. And we all know he's a guy to get heavy into those mid-range jumpers. So here he is able to isolate and get to that shot. And they like using screens with Chet coming up and operating in that formation. Chet, who is a threat to pop as a center, really stretches the defense and makes it tough for them to make a decision. Shai comes off the screen, Turner kind of switches, and Shai can just run Turner down, get into the paint. There's no gap pressure along the wings. And another thing is, you will see a guy like Cason Wallace as the low man in these situations, so that a weaker defender or smaller defender is the low man in these situations. Shai burns Turner and gets inside for the layup here. I point to game 4 of the Western Conference Finals of Oklahoma City versus the Wolves, and it was just a masterful run of utilizing the 1-4 flat. It was honestly devastating for the Wolves to try and defend that. Again, Wallace is in the dunker spot, so poor Mike Conley is the low man in this, and Rudy has to worry of the threat of Chet's 3. And this was a nice go screen, which gets Rudy to clear position. McDaniels thinks Rudy is there on the help. The defense gets burned, and you see Edwards having to fly over to help, which opens up a look in the corner too, but Shai is able to finish off the play. The play does get easier to defend when a Hartenstein is executing it, because Rudy can just drop into the paint. But there's some off-ball stuff that you can execute here with the Thunder, seeing Cason Wallace executing an exit screen for the corner Williams. So if Shai didn't get a clean shot off, there's still an option there in that corner to fall back on. But again, Shai just has a ton of space to work with no gap pressure help, and can just isolate Edwards and get into his shot. It's just pretty tough to stop all around, and Shai likes working with that mid-range. So if there were defenders along the wing, Shai would have to be conscious with his dribbling through that and having those guys come over and stop his dribble. But the 1-4 flat just eliminates that. Really works well because of that 5-out stuff. Like, the 5-out stuff maximizes the hell out of that play, and it's just another showcase of the isolation mastery of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Moving on to jump scaring the ball handler. This is a defensive technique you can use to make a play on the ball in ball screen situations, especially if the offense is running guard to guard screens. Alex Caruso executed this in the playoffs along with Anthony Edwards. This type of defensive pressure helps generate in steals. So see here as Julius Randle takes a screen going right. This is his non-dominant hand, by the way. Right when Randle takes that first dribble off the screen, Alex Caruso rushes it and picks the ball loose. The play also helps because Williams is staying attached on the screen and applying pressure. This can be risky, but it can result in either a steal or the offensive player picking up their dribble, in which you can give a hard double team on them. Edwards does the same thing here against Lou Dort, who takes a dribble off the screen. Just one dribble. Once they take that one dribble, that's when you rush the ball handler. And you got to take note if they're coming off with their dominant hand or not. And essentially, you're just jumping out and picking the ball loose. You're timing it, seeing that the guy's coming over the screen. And that first dribble is usually when the offensive player is most vulnerable. That's when they're preparing for a hedge or whatever coverage that defense is putting on them. Are they going for a switch or not? And again, it can be risky, but this can also just turn into a hard hedge depending on how quick the defensive player can move and recover. That's why a guy like Alex Caruso is so freaking good in these situations, because he can recover quickly back out to Rudy Gobert. The next one here, beating a 2-3 zone. Listen, for the folks that play 2K, the free throw line area when facing a zone is your friend. That may be a foreign concept. If your big man or someone can be a massive threat at the free throw line in the mid-range, go to them when facing a 2-3 zone. You see it all the time in the rec. That 2-3 zone should be beatable by now. Just putting that out there. Anyways, Rick Carlisle is one of the best offensive coaches in the league. I will always give that man his credit. Just a genius with offensive sets. A crafty way to attack a zone is by using 2 of your guards and forwards to come up and set a screen on each of the defenders within the 2-3 zone. This gives open space for TJ to just dribble inside, and now this puts pressure on the middleman, who is Chet, and it's usually going to be the center, to step up and make a play. A rare miss from TJ, but essentially this is the play. You want that open mid-range shot, and depending on who the player is in this situation, you can potentially generate a pull-up 3 if the defenders go under or are still hooked on the screen. It's still designed more for easier penetration inside to put pressure on that open space in the zone. I'm going to give the Pistons some love here because they were pretty fun in the sets that they ran for their shooters. Mostly a guy like Malik Beasley, who benefited a ton coming off of screens, movements, handoffs. One of the type of plays they run are these screening for Beasley and then re-screening for him coming up towards the ball. It's a nice misdirection that gets him going for 3s. They would get Beasley going with this 3-man action with him, Cade, and Jalen. So Jalen would set a screen for Beasley going towards the ball, get the ball, and flow back into a handoff. This is done to play with some switches, getting Tyus Jones on Cade. Beasley would then fake as if he is spotting up on the wing, then turn back around and take another screen from Jalen going towards the top of the key. Nurkic drops. Beasley gets a solid look. Dunn gets a pretty solid contest on this, but Beasley is just a lights out shooter. They kind of play with this again here with screening Beasley going towards the ball, but they incorporate another action with an exit screen in the corner to engage that right side. So there's 2 screening actions going on here happening at the same time within this play, and that gives more options for Cade to work with. I'll wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. What are some other plays, concepts, strategies that you notice teams do? Also, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy breakdowns like these. With all that being said, y'all, I'll see you all in the next video.